Okay, thank you everyone for joining. It's special. It's Chodesh Elul. It's Yud Elul. I'm pre-recording the shir because I'm going to be Metz Hashem at a chasana in Paris on Sunday night. Metz Hashem is Borach. By the time we record the shir, that really we're in Yerushalayim at Chodesh and we're learning Torah Chadoshim Iti Teitze from Mashiach Tzidkenu. Okay, so this is a maimer from Tav Shalom Hey Meshcheni Acherecha Narutza, which is an interesting idea in this maimer because usually we say Anila Doide V'Doide Li, Doide Li V'Ani Loich. So this says there's two psukim. One pasuk is talking about Avodas Hashem of Elul and Tishrei, and one is talking about Avodas Hashem of Nisan and Iyar. Nisan and Iyar is Doide Li V'Ani Loich. The Eibishter initiates the relationship. And Elul and Tishrei is Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li. The Yid initiates the relationship, and the last Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li. There's a Yud. There's 40 days. The last 40 days of Moshe Rabbeinu was the mountain, which culminated on Yom Kippur, which Eibush said, "Salachti kidvorecha." So that is Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li. And usually the pasuk Mashcheni Acherecha Narutza is associated. Usually the pasuk Mashcheni Acherecha Narutza is associated to the avodah of Nisan, where the Yidden were pulled out from the Mem Teshari Tumah by the Eibishter, and they were brought into Kedusha. And the pshat is Mashcheni Lashon Yochid, that the Yid gets pulled by the Eibishter. Who gets pulled? The Nefesh Halakis gets pulled. And once the Eibishter pulls the Yid out of the Mem Teshari Tumah, the first day of Pesach, the Yid runs after Narutza Loshen Rabim, that the Nefesh Halakis gets the Nefesh Habahamis on board, and they run together. And then as Eviyanech Melech Chadorov happens on Chag HaShavuos, Ma'at Torah, Yisrael Malch Kobel Chodoy, the Yidden are together. And just like it happened the first time, every year it happens exactly the same. That in the first night of Pesach, the Eibishter schleps out the first night of Pesach a Yid from his Tumah, and then the Yid works for 49 days in Sfiras Oimer until he gets to the level of Chag HaShavuos, Matan Torah, and Kula Chad with the Eibishter. But there is, in this Maimer, that Rebbe is going to say, that of Mashcheni Acherecha Narutza, in a way that we learn it not only in the avodah of Nisan, but also in the avodah of Elul and Tishrei. Okay, with no further ado, let's start. Start the Maim, and then we'll talk a little bit. Zog the Maim, Meshcheni Acherecha Narutza, Evani Melech Hador, V'Negila V'Nes Chavach, Hine Pasuk Zeh, Inyan Klol Shematar, Klol Sinyan, Avodas Adam Laboyrish, Aschol Bazay, Beifin Shazaros Delaila. This pasuk is a general pasuk according to Chassidus, which describes Avodas Hashem. A Yid has to start with Isarusa Delaila, Mashcheni. The Eibishter draws the Yid back. The Eibishter draws the Yid, and then the Yid runs after the Eibishter. That the Eibishter brings the Yid into his private chamber. So Bedugmas Yisrael Malka Bel Chodoy, Kumuv Gam Pirish Rabbeinu Azaken, Shechayel Yom Saloi, which we're now making hachonats for Chayalul, Belakut Torah, Mashcheni, Isarusa Delaila, Koyal Yitzis Mitzrayim Shemachag Pesach, Lachad B'Sfiras Ema V'Zamat Acherecha Narutza Lashon Rabim. There's Narutza, Lashon Lakis V'Nefesh Habahamis, Gam Yachad, Afu B'Shalchat Chilo Inyan Yitzis Mitzrayim V'Voyim the Ki Boracham. Even though the beginning of Yitzis Mitzrayim is in the way of Ki Boracham, that they ran out of Tumah because they were scared that they would be Chas V'Shalom drawn down. That in the beginning there is Mashcheni Lashon Yochid. When the Eibishter draws, it's only the Nefesh Halakis gets drawn. When the godly light is felt, so Nefesh Halakis gets drawn. Nefesh Bahamas doesn't care. He just wants to have a pastrami sandwich. But Nachdem is Narutza Lashon Rabim. That Nefesh Halakis works with the Nefesh Bahamas, and makes that also Nefesh Bahamas should have a Narutza, is Oirus, to go to the Eibishter Telakus. Lachazev and Melech Hador, Shinyan Matan Torah, Shaz B'Nei Yisrael, B'Chador V'Shal Kadosh Baruch Hu, Shinyan HaTorah, K'Shayach L'Kadosh Baruch Hu. The Yidden become one with the Eibishter. They interlock. Shnei HaTorah Hichamas V'Retzayin, V'Dei Zanas Yisrael V'Reis V'Koshu Precha Kol Achad. So there's 3 steps on this Pesach, Tzviras Omer, Chag HaShavuos. Number 1 is Moshcheni, the Eibishter draws the Yid, then Acharech Nerutza, the Nefesh Elokis gets Nefesh Ramas to run with, and then Eviyanim El Chadorov, which is the last step, Chag HaShavuos. Omnam Kiv Shebtei Shnei Inyonim, Kfi Shekshurim Yitzias Mitzrayim, וכפי שקשורים עבודת תשרי. וכמה מרצה במחנוס המתן תורה. יום כיפר שבו ניתנה לוחס אחריינס. יום חסנוס is יום כיפר. הרי מובן שיש גם בפירוש הפוסק, שכן אחר רוצה בעלם על חדר, כפי שהוא מצא לעבוד את החודש תשרי, שהסחול הזה מרש חידש אלו, שעוד נמצא מעלה בסוד, כמו שמבאר בנצח מלכות התורה, עניין סקל הסורס יתגלו מצרח, בחודש אלו. That also the avoid of Chodesh Tishrei, which starts in Elul, Janila Doidi Velodi 40 days. Also, we have to find a way to read that pasuk of Mashchina Cherecha Narutza, Aviyanam Melech Hadorav, Negil of Nischabach, into avoid of Chodesh Tishrei. V'adar Abekim Yishluch Zacharenes and Ba'efim the Keflaim L'Tushiyah. The first luchas, in a way, were less than the second luchas. The Medrash says that even though Pipshat, it seems that the second luchas were less, it really is much more. It's Keflaim L'Tushiyah. It must be a way to read the pasuk Mashcheni in the context of Chodesh Tishrei, and Adarab, there's a mile on that. In the Mashcheni Aviyani, Melo Hay Belochos Rishonos, Hine Iker in Yembazeh, Hu Belochos Acharonos Davke. Shem Shebetchila Hay Luchos Rishonos, Berak Achachnet Luchos Acharonos. The Luchos Rishonos were first, but then the main thing was Luchos Acharonos. Vafa became in the Davke Luchos Acharonos Meika. Listen, that Keflaim to Tushiyah, Bedugmas Malas Balachu, Vafil Al Tzadikim Kemurim, Shebachol said is a Chilek Ben Avodah, the Chodesh Tishrei, Begamaz Chodesh El, Avodah the Chodesh Nisan, Yitzis Mitzrayim Shebehem Shechlazeh Mantar Luchos Rishonos. שמצד avodah the Chodesh Nisan avodah tzadikim יש נס חלקה זה סומר אבא סייטוי ואנש יש עניינים שדויכים יש עניונים שמבהרנים מזרחים מלמס מצד avodah דבלה תשובה אז דוי נס נעשה לכזכוי נם ששמענו מסכל העולם כולו על התחת שלהם שיח להגיע די avodah תשובה שלו מיילום בכל מדי דבר גבלה שאפילו נשמה בגוף נעשן ומים בדמץ שהרוח תושב עליו כמה שנסונה. So the difference of Chodesh, the avoid of Nisan and Tishrei is like the difference of Tzadikim and Baalei Tshuva, which is the difference of the first luchas, the second luchas. The first luchas the Yidden were bepchinas Tzadikim, and the second luchas the Yidden were bepchinas Baalei Tshuva. So there's 2 mahalchim in avodas Hashem. There is Pesach till Shavuos, which is, according to the Zohar, the Tzviras Omer is one long Chol HaMoed. It's the bridge from Pesach to Shavuos, and then there's the avodah of Elul, starting from Rosh Chodesh Elul, from Chai Elul, going till Simchas Toidum, which is the second set of avodah, which is the avodah of Baalei Tshuva. The difference of Anila Doidi or Doidi Li, Vaniloyo Anila Doidi v'Doidi Li. Taka, there's a biur that we find, which is not the usual biur, but we find the biur, but Abesem Nisenu that Mashcheni goes on a Shchei Shel Shemen Ftachim Yud Gil Mitzarach. Shcheni. The Eibishter does draw a little bit to Yid, not the same like Nisan, but there's a scalus of Yud Gil Mitzarachim in the way of Melech Basada. So there is a Mashcheni on a Shchei Shel and throughout Shchei Shel. שהם ממשיכים אוירם שם ישראל שבבל אביירה ובמים הנויסף איסה ליטן כויח ואיז לאבל לתשובה ואף על פי שהגיל יוגל מצרח ומחתך בבית משפר לעניין משכן אלא שיחד נגלף של גיס בלבד הזה פרלח כרך מרוצה ושנב נפש של כיס יחד נפש מהמס לך זה בו להביאנה מלך הדור שנאמן תורה לא חסר אחרנת ביים כיפר ועד נגיל ונסמוך הבח בעין השמינין וגיל ברודה בראש השונה במח ככלינין נגיל ונסמוך הבח בשמיני צרס וסמחס תורה. So there's the way Chassidus learns that Mashcheni is the Melech Basad, that the Yid is drawn through close to the Eibishter through Gimel Mitzarachim, and then the Yid works on himself, and the Nefesh Elokis gets Nefesh Hamas on board in the roots, and they start running towards the Eibishter, and then Aviyanim Melech Hadorov, the Yid becomes one with the Eibishter on Yom Kippur. And within that, there's 2 steps. There's Evyanach Melech Hadorov, which is Yom Kippur, and Chassidus says that the joy of Yom Kippur is felt on Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah, and the Gil of Nismach Habach. V'hinei apirish b'pasuk Mashcheni ben Melech Hadorov, k'fi she'ben Gil of Tishrei, Maaseh Mashkasa b'Medrash, Agodash b'Torah Sherev says b'Torah Genu b'Makam Mashkasa b'Rabbein Azak Meretz Kodesh. The pasuk Mashcheni Shemu v'Kamei Perushim b'Pasuk. In the Medrash, there's a few pshatim on Mashcheni. and Medish in general is a Rav Seidus HaTorah Gnuzimba. Mehem Mashcheni al Shem Sheish Sereish Shchinos Chabeteichenu. Well, Achaz Mevi Apirish Mashcheni Koyer al Shisilak Shchinos Chabeteichenu. There's two opposite pshatim in the Medrash of Mashcheni. Mashcheni, you drawed me closer, or Mashcheni, you removed yourself. It's a hepach mamish. The Rebbe is going to say, very good, because there's two mahalchim of how you read Mashcheni. The way it's in Chodesh Nisan, the Eibishter draws the Yid close to him, he schleps him out of Mitzrayim, and then there is Mashcheni of Elul, which really comes after the avodah of which the Eibishter Rachmana Litzlan is like Isha Holach, Isha Sholcha Baila Medina Sayam. The Eibishter removed himself, but not Chas V'Shalom because he wants to remove himself, because he wants the Yid abstinence makes the heart fond. He wants the Yid to run after him. And that's the two pshatim in Mashcheni, which are opposite atake, opposite avodah. One pshat in Mashcheni goes for the avodah Hashem of Chodesh, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, and the other one is the avodah Hashem of Elul and Tishrei. Hainu, according to the second pshat, Mashcheni means the Eibishter removed himself. Shemafarash Mashcheni union istalkas v'hel Mashcheni. B'mishoich ha'yovel ha'yalu b'hor. B'mishoich means to remove himself. V'inyan zeh pearl shacharech narutza b'yesas me'berayla davatedalo shukein shkol atzar shabalem b'mais egel nisablo kim shabalam oishe kele b'kirvach ashinyan shalakusu b'helam v'yad v'yishmaon v'yisablo moed. Moshe Rabbeinu told the Yidden they're going to be punished, and the Eibishter is not going to be Megala Shechina to the Yidden. Ooh, the Yidden got very upset. Why? Because when a Yid hears that there's no Gila Lakus, Evetza Teresel, he's very upset about it. And Shinya Asilu, Paul Etzlam, Lova the Madrege, this Truva Shal Yodam Nasir Yom Kippur Salachtik at the Berecha Besimcha B'Leiv Shalom. So, Taka, we have to summarize the two pshatim in Mashcheni in the Medrash. Opposite pshatim, either Mashcheni means you draw me close, or Mashcheni means that the Eibishter pulled himself away, and it goes well with the two mahalchim in Mashcheni. One is for the avodah of Nisan, and one is the avodah of Elul. Which is the Indian of Achaz, not in the Mashcheni, but Chodesh Elul. Even Shagam Kshinim Tzana Dam beside the Emir Badosh in the Mashcheni for the Neder Tzalashana, Minish, the Moir Loirak Nafshalikis, Elagam Nafsham Hamas, but there Mela as a Pearl Gamma Gufa Gamma Helkabalam, Tzid called Nisra as a Pearl called Silent Kulkamame, Kamavur Bezir, Perklamazam Barucha, by Shapel in the roots, I know Loirak in Aliche, Mishkosava Lachta Bedroch, Lachasham like a Lechu, Shagam, Alichu Daganalis be a second shot saying at not only are we mahalach and avodas Hashem, narutza. Narutza means we're running. Velocity. There's an unbelievable isoidus and a desire and a yearning. And the word narutza doesn't only mean to run; it also comes from the source of lashon rotzen. When a person wants something, the koyach harotzen has an unbelievable power to overpower any other koyach. Something that's not pleasurable, but if he wants to do it, because he wants to run the marathon, and all of a sudden this becomes a passion and a pleasure. To him, pleasure is to fast. Then it becomes a chelik of his own Shabbos, like in the case of a tayin escholem, that he feels that he needs to do tshuva, and for him the fasting is a bigger pleasure than eating. So then that's what he's supposed to do. So narutza doesn't only mean to run, but the word narutza means that he runs with a starke rotzen. And because he has a strong rotzen to come close to Hashem, the rotzen the rotzen is shoylet and all the other koiches, and it makes him have a pleasure in this avodah. We said in Mashcheni in the context of Elul means that the Eibishter was a little bit misalik himself first, and abstinence makes the heart fond. That the Eibishter wants that Yidden should run after him. ויובן על פי תוידס הבעל שם טוב, שחייל גם ימי לידה שלוי, על פוסק בית צורי ליענקב מני ושיה, שלא זה בבת שמתבטלס הצורי, סיינים זה מבני ושיה שהצורי גופה בישוע. The word of the Baal Shem Tov is the Eis Tzorah LeYaakov Memeni V'Shei. Not only that there's a Tzorah and there will be a Yeshua, the Tzorah itself turns into a Yeshua. The Baal Shem Tov said that you put the Oisius Tzorah into a spinner and you spin the Oisius, just like the Alter Rebbe explains from the Baal Shem Tov in the beginning of Shar Yichud V'Amunah, that Oisius Tzorah Maimoris spin, 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 and everything in this world comes from that Tzorah Maimoris. You just have to put the letters in a spinner. Same thing is the tzara, you put it into a spinner and you turn it into tzoyer. Tzoyer tasala toiva. That becomes beautiful, it's the shine. He takes the energy of the tzara and turns it into a tzoyer. As is of the Baal Shem Tov. Shalo is a balvat shema batel sa tzara. Liserim so shemani v'shesh shema tzara gufa b'yisho. Hine tzara b'lashin tzor. Chotsin in a meitze hepech American. Da min a meitze karasa yo b'amonu b'merchiv yo. גם עניין חושך, אז זה ממני ושש, הצורה עצום סעדך, זה נמשל צויר, כמו שקוץ הצויר תעשה לטבע, כמה דרוש עשה לצל, אבן טוב אמיר להם, אשר עשה מאבן טוב המאיר, they turn him from a regular rock, a dover המאיר להם, not just a window, but a rock that gives off light, like electricity, עניין זה נעשה, כמו שקוץ בתרס בשם תבנל, דוד דבר לטבע, עניין הטבע כבר לא יסע תויר ויסע תפילה. How do you do it? Through boil הטבע. You go into the teva. It's just which is which is brings the kedusha down to the world. To go up, to climb up the sulam of tefillah. Shrinyan oisius atfila. Abala teva heinish nichnas betevas oisius atayra vatfila. What does it mean boil a teva? Boy ela teva, if you're talking about a physical teva, walk from where you are and walk up the ramp and go into the boat. Boy ela teva, go into the teva. But when you're saying teva means it's a toira, what do you mean boy ela teva? Walk in. Say the words. Zakte Rebbe, it's a very boy dekemaim. Zakte Rebbe, what's the pshat? Boy ela teva. Ledent mitachayis davent mitachayis. Boy, kolat smoisei temarna. Don't just say the words. Go into the word of Torah. Go into the word of Tefillah. Go kolat smoisei. Go totally get into it. Get all the way into it. Leden mitachayis and davent mitachayis. Through the boy lateva, nasa tzoyer lateva, shatziruv the tzor mitapech, the tziruf tzoyer. Through the Yosef Tefillah, he becomes a tzoya. That he's mahapach the tzora into a tzoya, and he's mahapach it in a way that all the tzora memoris are mishapach and are oila. I'm having Machaim Lakim called Protel, Torah of Hashem to Pasuk Lanshim, Vorchlitz Bashram, Shigam Nasi, and Bola Tevi, in a highest, bad in the Tsanas, Tevish, Mebam Gil Lukus, Recheno Befedish, Hamelish Dafkin in the Lelo, Bekirbach, Schelik, Shena Polokets, Nasral, Says Chuv Heinish, Shav Bishish Matz of Shalakus of Helam, Medakam, Hatzore, sort of many Bishish, Nalek in a brocha, Kumashkos Vab, Hashamalakachas, Brakla, the brocha, Shunians Dinus Nasa, Kizachuyus. Just to say. So the word is that Mashcheni in the second pshat is that even that it's like it's a schiluk shchina. It's a negative, but it turns in fakert. It turns into the biggest positive. Like avoid this. The first pshat of Mashcheni means that the Eibush draws Yid close. It's avoid tzaddikim. The second pshat of Mashcheni is an avoid of tshuva, that the Eibush hides a little bit in order to make the Yid have an ishtoikikus, so by the time the melech is besod, the Yid is chalashing to go see the melech. Bine, no se pa damar liel shklo shapasuk zo ko in klol ba the sodom is being klol bioser in klol se der shtal shlo sina ma pasuk mashana khrachmat so ba na ba magid shkmashal av veroyes benoy mishtashe bekatnus mishtashe bekatnus shlo ish betkhil marzat smol lefnei benoy ve ze pa lov shmiyat shmani khas ma sakatnus shlo verot zakhri rov כאשר רואה אב רואה שבן מסייע להניח ששוע הקדוש או לא רצה אחריו, הנה אז מאסת פון ממנו והלך לדעת כבשביל שיהיה בעתינה כלימס במייס הקטנס ויהיה בחשק לאבא סבא, והיינו שיהיה אחריך לרוץ על יוסף, בכל זה נעשה לצמצום של אב, שמרץ אצל לפני בייס מששע בקטנס שלו, ואח כך מצמצם הבוסר, והלך לדעת שזה פעם גם אצל הבניין, צמצום שמצמצם מסנת הקצעצמי, בכל הנשתשב וזה לפני זה, בהמשך לבא, שכן בגיל לכל ססה וסלו, שאחר למחשבת הנעים להכינה כשהם מלך בעם, צמצום כבדי שיוכל לא למסלסייב, לבניין צמצום למעל פרק, כך עניין צמצום למעט עובד זה השם, שעודם יצמצום את עצמי בעניון, בלי אחריך מרוצה, וידי זה נשנר, נסמאלה, רוצה, זה הנועם לך. Father, Dr. Magid, wants to have a relationship with his son. He plays with the son, bekatnos, a little game. And the kid gets so excited and he has a relationship with the father. And now the father wants to elevate him and wants him not to be a whole life involved in katnos. So he walks away and the kid likes his father. And he realizes his father's not interested anymore in the games. He's interested in something more choshev, but he wants to spend time with his father. So he also lets go of the narishkeit and then he gets elevated. And the word is the Eibishter wanted to make Dira B'Tachtonim. He was mitzamtzim himself, and when the Yid sees the Eibishter was mitzamtzim himself to get close to the Yid also is mitzamtzim himself to come close to the Eibishter. Mezem moving on come up also k'mashchen echarech nutzin in kol aved Adam chlose the shtalshas in shalom shaftan emla shekosher meaning the temel chone alechem alachen yesh by pirushim and agel chol so gamma the matzav sheetz bnei so hechlem mitzes mitzrayim kamal el shafas zakoy al Chag Pesach, which is Mashcheni, and that's Fidas Ayim Acharech Narutza Man Toyre Vayana Melech Abarim Tloch Zereshanis. Azach Lazem Negel Mishkan LaBeis HaMikdash V'gam Negel Chorban Beis HaMikdash V'chorban Ba'aved Sadam La'ar B'kirbacha Shlakusu B'helm Shepasuk Zem Mevar Kol Sinyan Avoda B'chol Ma'am D'Matzav V'tzad Sheva V'hem She'edei Magin L'Tachtas HaShlom Zeh Vayana Melech Adoruch. It's in Kloli, the Pasuk, and therefore it could be dashed in opposite ways, the Avodas for Nisan and the Avodah of Tishrei. יש לבר, קיים קשר, הם שכננו במימורים, שמו בשם מה שכוסו ביחזקאל, ואני בתוך הגוילו על נהר כפור, בערב הארץ אלוקים שאצל לידי, ליס המקום וברול, על דמוס הכיסא, דמוס כמרי אדם על מלמעלה. מבוא לשם פרוט עניון למרכבס יחזקאל. אף בשביל בתוך הגוילו, עד מצד, דווקא מצדין שבתוך הגוילו, דווקא בתוך המצד, ממנו ובשיה. Al Zenem al Nar Kavor, that the Novi, not despite that he was B'toch HaGola, Dafka, because of the B'toch HaGola, he had a Gila L'kuz. Dugmas HaPirish, Moshe Savana Melach Over, Melech Adorov, Kiviana Kvar, Hana Shnussel, Pirish Amalil, Kiviana Melech Adorov Balach, in the Meshchena Rechach, Samanam is a Pirish Zo, in the Sinistam, in the Meshchena Rechach Marutza, Shatamar, the Dover, the Fish Kvar, over Viana Melech Adorov. There's a pshat that Viana Melech Adorov means not that he brought me now Chadorov, he already brought me into Chadorov. And that's why I have a shtoikus to come close to the Eibishter, because I know what it tastes like. Muvor badurushim shkol azman shkol ma tcholas avoid kama merazal shtini b'meim me'olam denais kolater kol af pisha bo malach besotra piv mishkach mishakhay. Khdesh v'das tipka chatz v'manam l'chsuf b'kom nishetz la'koch al ze shmiyat she'ini mashcheni bevadi lachzeni da kharach lanutz v'ken b'nyana kvar shkvar hoye inin the dmus mar adam. It's al mar kvar. I already knew the Eibishter. Just like a person is avoida, that the Eibishter reveals himself in the time of pregnancy. The same thing we say b'chol al nar kavor af b'shakum al mechol ilayin midasiu klam kom mitzim so geshbar chatzim mitzir odem odem elim al derech teres erav magid shav mishtashe mitzamtzim mitzatzmo umaretz atzim elabnoi beis adayim b'shashu ekatna shaloi k'mekem tzim sa geshbar chshanosa b'lus avinyan zeh poel gam lamata b'cholachem misrot k'rim odem ashu b'dam al alien. And be Yosef b'tech hagoylo, but my the matzah the loyal b'kerbecha yetz linyan the cherech hadarutza k'vishanasa b'yesais linyan la'achar helam. That this whole the helam that there is only a game, like a father plays with his child, then he removes himself. He wants a kid to run after him, because that's the close in the avodah balachuv shem lo b'tech hameitze. Avodah shinya shaydei zanasa ilu the chuv gam yachzon linyan hagoylo k'fishu b'daka zedaka shechotza it's coming in the toshav alakim asher nasonik k'fishu yard masham migre ram l'bein amikta. Often be sure that gets the government should mail the but pog mal ben sadera faseb ze zene shaykh la zaklal be Yosef betech gele sorich la ve la tacht shlam de rochta shol kemashen sanal so it's da kai bet yuft shtev das la mail med vad bal khom edach that that even a tzaddik gomer has to do the din of tshuva. לעשות בצדקאי בתיופתא שעבדוס על המיילה מדידה והגבולה בכל מדך, אף ביש גם בטבס מועד יש הצירף אודם, אלא שזו באופן אחר. If you spin the word אודם, you get מועד, בעניין זה שידי זה שמאס חלבסו בתך הגוילה, בתך המצד הציר אודם, he starts taka בתך הגוילה, and he's ערם על סלקים, תמוס כאודם, זה נעשה בדסו למטה, עניין, דחילוי אודם הוא, he gets to a higher darge, shunim chomedacha, chaved al yodo is an shamakim, but there's different command upon him. Kevachaladrushim, Kafi, Shinis Barb is a Bedrusha Besenis and Alakos, the machine coil of course in the Hedeshell shows Yashnagila hours to give on Sarach making upon him. Minyas and Nimshach, Manish Hedeshell, Mashkola Hedeshkula, Frad Chayel, Kedu, a Piskim Shave, Lipsenis and Osei, there in the quick Kedush American, but Bishim Meshem Shachel, Machtnes Chayes, Bavoide. B'chodesh b'chol prot aved b'chodesh. The Chayel brings in a chayes, like the Torah of Hashem, to boil a teva. Aboz masagam in yom lechodesh. K'mavur baruch b'sichas k'fei tushmer v'chomer. Admor shechayel yom recheshben al chodesh tishre aver. It means next week we're going to verbring him Sunday night. Monday, Chayel is a day of reflection. To make a cheshbon tzedek for what happened the Tishri the year before, and every day is Yom Lechodesh, Yom Lechodesh. Yom Liyom Hashlim Megam Esifim Chol Chadoshim Shel Hashana Sha'avra. And this year is going to be a Chodesh Ibur. It's going to be a Ibur Yor, which the mile of Ibur Yor is that we're missing some days and we want to be Mashlim. So Ibur Yor has the mile of this coming year is an Ibur Yor. Look at the brackets. Look Shnas Ibur Kama Shana Ba'at Look at Zayin L'Shalom Shem Mashlim Mesachet Saran Yom Shem Shalom Sha'avra V'Zman L'Langa Mesifim. So the union of going into Shnasa Ibur means that we have a special koyach to be mashlim things that were missing in our Rebbe's Shem in the past few years. Was nishlam ratzum dana emlech. There's a shetam lechuni aleich. Sky mashkos special Shem locha v'bis mashiach zetkein kapsakaram shavad melech bizdad. Hoiga b'teira b'esik mitzvahs g'davadav v'yokol klis olelo balachazim bitku v'yelcha v'chavas Shem yinatzech. Even the mikdash become a bakich yekabes net chisrol b'kor mamish b'gula mitzvahs v'ashleim. I wanted to tell you a story about this thing with the Baal Shem Tov, which is to bring a chayes into the oisius, boyel teva, go into the tevis Torah, and through that the tzara turns into a soyar, the oisius start to shine. There's a story I shared more than once. My Zayda loved to tell the story. He was a child. He was a Neville. Because his father was secretary of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and they lived in Peterburg. He didn't want his son to grow up in Peterburg, which is a big city and a goyish city. He wanted his son to learn in Nevel, which was a halu benevel v'chinor. The Chassidim said Nevel was a very chassidish shtat. There was my Zayda always to say there was a neighborhood in Nevel called America. That was the real America. It was all about Chassidim. And the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, all chassidim. So there's a story that I always tell from Isaiah that he was on the train and he met one of the elder. It was an 18-hour ride, so he was running around and he opened doors and one of the elder chassidim were there. He met him, Ingela, tell me Amaisa, and he told him a story that he heard from his Malamed, but a misnagid that came to the Alter Rebbe. He was a big Talmud Chochem. And he became a chassid. His father-in-law, who was a misnagid, came to the Alter Rebbe and complained. He said, when my son-in-law was a misnagid, he learned Torah Yom V'Layla, and now he's just wasting time. The Alter Rebbe told him first he learned for the katz, and for the hund, and for the shvig, and for the shver. And now he learns only for the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Alter Rebbe told him a story. He said, he would sit in the attic of your house and he would read books, magazines beside it. But he heard a little rustle. And you're supporting him, not to learn. So you chap the Gemara, you opened it up, and he started to learn Bekel Godel. Turns out it was the cat. Sure. Then it was the dog, and then it was the Shviger. No, it was Kedai to show the Shviger he's learning. Then there was the Shviger came upstairs. It was Kedai to chap a Gemara. Now, when he hears a rustle, he closed the Gemara and he opens up some book that you shouldn't know he's learning, because I learned it nish for the cats, and nish for the hund, nish for the Shver, nish for the Shviger for the Rebbeinu Shalom. I'm telling the story in short because I told the story already. And then the kicker was that when he came to Petersburg, there was he says he was playing with his younger brother. He was in a carriage. He was wheeling his brother in their apartment, and came Rav Shoyal Zislin, a young guy, and he was telling his father, and his father was like smiling and shaking. And when the person left, so the Zayd Chonya Morozov told my grandfather that what happened was that all the Elter Chassidim from the days of the Rebbe Rashab used to come to visit the Rebbetzin Stern Nasara, the wife of the Rebbe Rashab, the mother of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And this Chassid, this Elter Chassid, told her that he was in the train and he met a Bochrel from Neville and Mendel Morozov, and they told her the story. She was thrilled. Every person that came, she told them the story. And from the Elter Chassidim, the Rabbonim, they came for Chodesh Tishrei, told them the story. I said, who I heard the story from Mendel Morozov, little kid. And I said he understood that, she was very happy that there was trying times, it was Pasha, dangerous in Russia at that time, and still that the Lubavitch Chinuch was so strong that a kid is a chayis in the story about learning Torah, nish for the kat, nish for the hund, nish for the shver, for the shriga, for the ebishter. Like the whole world is turning around, and he's the Chinuch. And the Rebbetzin was very happy about that. There was another story that I didn't tell, which Mazed used to say when he would tell the story. He was on the train. There was one of the Tamim. He was a little boy, so they asked the bocher to be in charge to make sure he's safe. In the morning, he said, "Okay, Mendel, get daven." So he gave him a siddur, and he quickly davened. And bocher said, "You daven? Every ois has to have a chayis in it. You have to bring a chayis into every ois. And you daven big pieces of davening without a chayis." So my Zayda said he was a kid in his Tuesday, and he said to him, "What do I do now?" He said, "You have to redaven whatever you daven without a chayis." So he said, "How do you know?" He said, "When you daven and you daven with a chayis, every ois starts to shine. Every ois you daven with kavanah, the ois starts to shine. So if you daven again, those oises will shine." So as a little kid, he said, I don't see which ois is shine or not. So he said, "I could see. I'll tell you in the siddur which parts, give me your siddur, and I'll show you which parts are shining and which parts are flat." And he told him exactly which pieces of davening to daven again, because it's shining, because it's flat and it's not shining. He davened again, and the bocher, look, now it's shining. So everybody used to laugh and take l'chaim. But the Musar Haskell, that we have to daven until every ois in the siddur is not black ink. It's a shint. Boya la teva. We walk into the teva with such chayas that that all of a sudden the tzara itself starts spinning. The oises spin, and the tzara itself turns into a tzoyer tasala teva. The energy of the tzara turns into a tzoyer. Kain tialonu. We're going into a special year. And the avodah right now is as we're gearing up for Chayel, the Chayis, and the avodah Banila Doide V'Doide, the Chayis, and the avodah for Chodesh Elul. David shall help we should be matzliach in our avodah, and Take, it should be by every one of us, it should be Tzoyer Tasal Teva, that in our house it will shine in a lichtigkeit von Alakuz. And so sein lichtig, Lachobne Yisrael, Ye'or B'Meshvoisam, in the few minutes that in the last few minutes of Golus, we should be zeichen to the ultimate Tzoyer, to the lichtigkeit of Bias Mashiach Tzedkeinu. Yishikoyach, a gute Nacht, and aksive v'chsima toiva, ashona toiva u'mesuke for everyone here, and b'teichechi klal Yisrael.